Welcome back to the vlog. We're going to be playing at Capital Casino again. It's our home casino here in Sacramento, California. Love the action, love the games. We're into the 1-3 game, and I usually like to start off fairly aggressive, and there was a bunch of limpers in front of me. So I decided to raise it up to 25 from the cutoff with 9-10 suited. I do get a caller from a player at the end of the table who is a vlog watcher and loves to get involved with me. I think he takes it as a personal challenge, and one other call from the player on my right. So the three of us are headed off to a flop, which comes out Queen 6-5 with one club. There are two hearts on board, so there's possible flush draws. Both players ended up checking it over to me, and as I said, I like to be aggressive. If they don't have a queen, a flush draw, or a straight draw in this spot, I figured I can just take it down. So I bet $40. This is like a one-shot offer. If it doesn't work, I'm probably just going to give up on this thing. Player at the end of the table decides that he wants to look me up, and he calls for the $40. The other player folds out, so I'm basically surrendering until I see the ace of clubs on the turn. Very good card for me and my range. The player checks it over to me again. I decided I'm going to continue. I could definitely have aces in my range, and if he had a weak queen, you'll probably want to give up right now. And if all else fails, I can rely on getting a backdoor flush. Anyway, he thinks about it for a while, takes a peek at his cards, and puts in the call. We're off to see a river card that comes the 4 of clubs. What a beautiful card, until he shoves on me. Well, I was planning to shove when he checked, but now I'm trying to think whether I want to call or not. He could have a queen with another club, but I'm blocking the 10 and the 9. So he would have to have like queen jack of clubs or king queen of clubs. I think he would raise with king queen of clubs, so that leaves queen jack of clubs. Not that potential. 7-8, that would definitely be in the running there. He could have the any kind of 7-8 and thinks that his straight is good. Oh, tough spot, but given the player and that I do have a pretty good hand, I only lose to basically the queen high flush, I'm going to stick in the call. And he's very happy to show me that he had the queen 7 of clubs for the flush. Nice answer. Take it down. Well, it's time to reload. Buy another $500. I'm in the big blind here with king jack offsuit. Player late position raises to 15. Small blind calls, I call. We see a flop that comes queen jack 7. And not a bad flop from our hand. Check to the player who was the aggressor. He bets for $35. Player folds out. And here with the second pair, good kicker and some backdoors, I'm going to go ahead and put in a call. Turn card comes is a 6 of clubs. I check it over to him. He quickly checks it back. Think I'm good here. River card comes is a 3 of diamonds. I still think I'm good here. I check it over to him in case he wants to stab at it, and he does. He bets out for $60. I'm trying to figure out if he could actually backdoor something, and I think it's impossible. So I compile my chips, and I stick them on in. Seems like an easy call. He doesn't want to show his hand, but eventually he turns over that he had the ace 4 of clubs. So he picked up a backdoor flush draw, and he missed. Sometimes people like to see some of the boring hands. Bunch of limpers, comes around to me on the button. I got a good hand, I raise, everybody folds. Not too exciting, but it's a few chips here and there. Again, one limper, I raise with 5s, everybody folds. So it seems like it's a pretty boring thing, but you can take advantage of that by raising with, say, non-premium cards like queen jack off and have everybody fold. Occasionally they'll get curious and want to look you up. Here, a player opened for $16. I look down at ace king suited. Easy raise. I raise from the cutoff. Only he puts in the call. And we see a flop that comes king 10-3. Pretty basic. It's a semi-wet board, so I'm going to continue here for $25. He doesn't think too long. Shows me that he was raising with 9-6 and called my raise with 9-6. I wish he caught clubs. Again, we continue by raising a little bit light. Here we have queen jack offsuit again, bunch of limpers, we raise, and we take it down. Eventually we get into an interesting hand with fellow poker vlogger Alex at NorCalPoker. If you haven't seen his channel, go ahead and check him out. Give him some love. Here he opens for $15 from early position. There's one call up from late position, and in the small blind with 2 kings, I'm definitely going to be putting in a raise. And it's not going to be a small one. I would be squeezing a lot here with my squeezable hands, and kings definitely fall into that range. So I make it $70. I figured that Alex is very strong opening early position with a raise. So I expect him to be at least calling, hopefully not 4-betting me, because that means he probably has a hand like aces or kings. He does think for a while before putting in the call. So the hand of ranges I'm putting him on are like queens, jacks, maybe tens, and perhaps an ace king, and perhaps even slow playing aces. That's not out of the question. The other player decides that he's not going to partake, and it's just going to be the two of us heading off to a flop with $158 in the center. Flop comes out really good for me. It comes 7-7-6 rainbow. That's a really good flop for an overpair, especially going up against someone with a tighter range who's not likely to have, say, 7-6, 8-7 in their range. So I go ahead and bet out for $60, just trying to do my normal C-bet, get normal value. He puts in the quick call, so I'm pretty sure he has something. We'll see what happens on the turn. Turn card is a 5 of hearts, and here against a normal player, I would continue, but against a player with a tight range who called me pre-flop and on the flop, who might have queens or jacks, I'm going to check it over to him, let him hang himself. He does put out a bet for $100. I thought he would go larger with his bet sizing, especially if he had queens or jacks. You want to protect against those overcards and flush draws. So now I'm kind of thinking maybe he has some sort of like ace queen of hearts and is trying to just bet his flush draw and scare off my ace king. Anyway, I'm going to stick it in, make him pay for his draws if he has it. If he has queens or jacks, he's definitely going to be calling. And if he has aces, I just fell right into his trap, and I don't care because I have a very good hand. He tanks for a while, looks back at his cards, and says, I think you're trying to get me off a chop. He ends up showing that he did have ace king and lays it down. So nice fold, sir. Well, Alex ended up leaving, but we got a couple action players to sit down at the table. Here I have pocket jacks in the +1 position, open for 15. An action player on my left puts in the call. And then one at the end of the table who's action, but I have a pretty good read on him, puts in a raise to 45. I played with him quite a bit, and I can tell he has a very, very strong range here. Normally, I probably would 4-bet this in most situations, but against his 3-bet range, even though he's action, I am just going to put in the call and see what comes on the flop. Flop comes out, king high, not good. I check it, the player to my left checks, and he continues with a $100 bet. Nothing to do here but get out of the freaking way because he has at least a king in this spot. He could have a set of kings. He could have ace king. I fold, the other player folds, and he shows ace king. Some of you might have noticed there was a red dot in not to bluff strong ranges at the beginning of this intro. Well, this is the hand that it's talking about. Here I have ace jack offsuit from middle position, open for a raise. Only get called from the player on the button, who was the one that beat me in the first hand of the day when I had the 10-9 of clubs and he made a flush against me. Everybody else folded out, and so just the two of us head off to a flop with $34 in the pot. Well, the flop is very, very wet. It comes queen, jack, 10, rainbow. I ended up checking this because I think he'll stab at a lot of things, but his bet size was pretty juicy, so I decided that when he made it, I was just going to give him one loose call and see what happens after that. My call should slow him down a bit, calling $30 on the flop. Turn card comes as a 3 of diamonds. I check it. I expect him to check back, but he continues to fire, this time for $66. Now, I told myself I wasn't going to bluff into strong ranges. I do believe he has something like maybe king, queen, maybe something like jack 10 or whatever. But being the pre-flop raiser, I have all the ace kings in my range, and I would definitely, maybe slow play them once in a while. So I decided, what the hell, let's put in $310, see if he can call this check raise. He knows I play a pretty tight range under the gun, and he watches the vlog a lot, and I don't make moves like this, and he knows I promise not to, bluff into strong ranges like he probably has right now. All that in consideration, I think I'm going to get away with this. So here it goes. We're in there. He's tanking. Am I sweating? Not really. I'm pretty sure this is going to work. Unless he has like Queen Jack or maybe 8-9 for the bottom end of the straight. He says, I think you have Ace King, Doug. And he shows and he folds a queen face up. His other card was a king that he later showed face up. So sometimes betting into a strong range is necessary. Here we pick up kings in the cutoff. There is a $6 straddle, a bunch of limpers. I raced to $50. I need to narrow the field a little bit. Apparently, $50 might have been just a little bit too much because everybody ended up folding. And I didn't get action on my pocket kings. But that's okay. I raise a lot with good hands. I raise a lot with, say, mediocre to poor hands too. So we ended up dragging all those dead chips, $28. It's a win. I'll take it. Sometimes you don't get action on your big hands, and sometimes you do. Here I get pocket kings again. This is about, 7-8 hands later, and similar situation. This time a player opens for a raise to 15, gets one caller, and I go ahead and raise to $70. I get a call from the player on my left, and both the initial raiser and the caller in between puts in the call. So we got a pretty good pot of brew in here. We got $284 in the center, and we're headed off to a very, very good flop that comes out 9-4 deuce rainbow. So unless someone has pocket nines, maybe pocket fours, pocket threes, I'm in great shape. I don't expect this to connect with anybody. The first two players check it over to me. I'm going to go ahead and bet about half pot, $150. Get a quick call from the player on my left. He is a capable player who can read the boards really well, and he knows that this is such a dry board that if I don't have an overpair here, he can probably get me off a lot of things. So he could be floating me, or he could have pocket nines, pocket fours, maybe occasional ace 5 with a backdoor flush draw. Anyway, the other two players fold out, and we get a turn card, which is the 4 hearts. Great turn card. It eliminates pocket fours as a legitimate hand for him. There's only one combination of it left instead of 3. I thought about checking this, but then I decided just to bet like half pot. So I made it $325. He folded instantly. So he either was just floating me or had a hand like 8-9 or 9-10. We booked the win, went home, came back 2 days later. I didn't have my camera rolling at the beginning of this pot, but I raised to $20 with pocket aces, get 2 callers, and the flop comes king 6-3. The small blind leads out for $30. I put in the call as the other player folded out, and we get to see a turn card of a queen of spades. Very good hand for me. The player who is leading has a tendency to bluff a lot and 3 barrels. So he barrels again, this time for $60. I put in the quick call for the 60. And off to the river, which comes the 9 of hearts. It does complete the flush, but I think he was just barreling with nothing all this way. And he does fire again, this time for 145. He has something different though, because I finally turned on my camera and I get the end of this hand. I just have to look him up. He's been 3-barreling a lot. He showed Jack 10 offsuit for a runner straight. Nice hand. There was one limper. There was an $8 straddle on this hand. One player limps in. Player at the end of the table raises to 28. He's the one that beat me out of my pocket aces in the previous hand. I put in the call with Queen Jack suited on the button, and so do the other two players. The 4 of us see a flop with $116 in. That comes out 9-8-6 with a 9-8 of spades. Pretty good flop for Queen Jack of spades. We got a gutter to a straight flush. The first player ended up checking it. Now it's on to the second player, who assembles a bet for $60. A pretty good sized bet. I'm sure he has something. It's definitely in his range. Hopefully he doesn't have a bigger flush draw than me. The other player folds out and it's coming back to me, and he only had like $200 or so in his stack at the start of the hand. I thought about just jamming it here, but I kind of want to get action from the first player who ended up checking. Maybe he has a little piece of it. I just ended up calling and he folds out. So we're heads up to a turn, which comes the king of spades. Great, great card for me. Don't have to worry about a king high flush draw, only the ace high flush draw. And I don't think he has it. I think he may have flopped two pair or something like that. He ends up checking into me, and I was trying to figure out the size I want, whether I should slow play it or not. But I just said, he has a small stack. Let's just get it in there. So after some thought, I just shove all in. And he doesn't seem too happy about it, but he's been having a rough day. And I don't think he's in the mood to fold anything at this point. So he tosses in the chip. I show him that I have the flush. He must be drawing live because he held on to it for a while. Anyway, he ends up missing and tosses his cards in, and we win this pot, which is a very nice reprieve to the way the day has started. Again, this hand involves the player at the end of the table. There was two big blinds this hand. I raised to 20 from middle position. It's folded back around to the small blind, who has been our foe many times. And the big blind also puts in the call. So the three of us will go off to a flop with $60 in. That comes 10-7-6 rainbow. Not a great flop for kings. It does get checked to me. And I'm just going to check this back because this is definitely in their range a lot more than mine. Turn card comes as a 5 of diamonds. Puts up a backdoor diamond draw. Now the small blind leads out for $25. Yeah, this is in their spot. I mean, they shouldn't really hit any straights here, but they could have something like 7-6, 6-5, 7-5. I'm going to put in the call and see what the river brings. The river card is the 8 of diamonds, so now the backdoor flush gets there. Small blind takes a little moment and ends up checking. I think he made a straight, but is fearful of the diamonds. The other player also ends up checking, and he could definitely have at least two pair or a straight in this spot. And now I was thinking about turning my hand into a bluff. And I think that turning my hand into a bluff here against a loose player and a short stack was probably not the best idea. So I kind of surrendered by checking it back. The player in the small blind actually had a straight with 4-3. The other player never showed his hand, but I'm sure he had something decent. So anyway, I lost to him with aces and now with kings. Well, I ended up playing for a little bit longer, but nothing more fascinating happened. Anyway, for the week, we ended up winning $330 that first day. Second day, I didn't show any hands from, but we ended up losing $70. And this last day, of course, we ended up winning $430, even after losing with aces and kings to the action player. Well, I really do appreciate all your support, and thanks for watching and making it to the end of the video. Of course, I know what you guys really are interested in, and that is Zeus. Zeus is doing just fine. He's enjoying some time off while I go on a little bit of a heater. As you can see from the edge of the screen, there is our thermometers giving us the temperature of how we're doing so far this year. Hopefully we can keep it going throughout the year. Come along for the journey. I appreciate your support. Until next time, good luck at the tables, and we'll see you back here soon.